Hello, hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I'm your host, John Harris, and on my right-hand side is my right-hand man, Gabriel.
Hello!
And today on Rock Metal Podcast, we have Seething Akira. So Seething Akira, they have a new album called Dysfunctional Wonderland, out on September 3rd. And right now I'm being joined by Kit to share some more information about a plethora of songs that are available, music videos, the album. I also have this episode should air reasonably in time for what I see as tour dates in September. I'm still a little uneasy chatting about tour dates because the world's still kind of upside down, but we'll chat about it anyway, Kit, if it makes sense. And
of course, yep.
Sweet. Okay. Well, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, sir. Now, something we had started chatting about in the just before we kind of hit record was, because I may or may have not have actually hit record, but before we started the show, was the number one track on Spotify is Smile Thief, and you said you were surprised by that. So my first question is, why are you surprised by that?
I suppose it always comes down to personal preference. Everyone's got their favourites. I really like the song, otherwise we wouldn't have put it out, but I suppose in my head I saw other songs performing better. But I suppose what Smile Thief does is it's probably the one that more closely ties into our previous album and leads into the sort of heavier direction that we've started going into. So surprised just from my own personal preference, but when I think about it logically, it does kind of make sense that it's worked that way. But yeah, absolutely banging. I couldn't believe seeing how well it's doing daily as well. It's overtaken everything very rapidly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's that like? I mean, I don't know, I guess emotionally, keeping your head straight, whatever else. I mean, you're surprised by it, which I guess is a good thing, right? So how do you handle that?
I suppose I just do. There's not really a way of I don't really sort of think about it in a particular way. I mean, it's only ever happiness. So when stuff does do well, I think, well, great, that's working. People are liking it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Stay pretty level-headed.
Yeah, seems so. Who knows, man? Next year I'll have you on and you'll just be this big ego and
yeah. Bottle of JD in my hands, like.
Yeah, exactly. Well, of course it was number one. I'm number one. Number ones make number ones, it's just something like that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Clicking fingers.
Yeah, well, best song I've ever written. It makes sense. Doesn't it make sense to you? Album breadcrumbs. That's what I called it. Album breadcrumbs. So Smile Thief is what I would consider like a breadcrumb from the previous album.
Yeah.
Is that like intentional? Was it one that was actually written for the previous album? Were you guys thinking when crafting Dysfunctional Wonderland to make it a step forward, but still have some of the old with the new?
Exactly that. So we didn't want to go so far away from what we were known for that people listen to this album and think it's almost like a completely different band. But it's always been quite funny because the six of us have always listened to very heavy music. Well, from sort of heavy punk all the way through to I love a bit of black metal myself and everything few and far in between. And it was quite weird how we were always writing music that it always had a dabble of influence from that, but it never really committed to the kind of music that we listen to. And when we got John on board, our second guitarist, he's a chuggernaut. He's an absolute chug machine. So he brought the heavy, and him and Charlie, Sai as well, contributes. Sai's in another metal band that he does a lot of writing for as well. And just the three of them from the back, from like the background, would just create some absolute bangers. So I think Charlie, as you know, does all the electronic side of things. So his influence was always taking these stems and almost Frankensteining them up to make a monster. And it's just been a great. But like we were saying, like we didn't want to just go right 10 brand new heavy songs. We wanted to still make sure that the identity of the electronic side of us was still there. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially why Smile Thief was as it was. I think actually from a writing perspective, it was probably one of the last ones out of the 10 that was written.
Okay. So you guys sat down intentionally to write this record. How did that go over the last, couple of years? Did you guys' writing change? I mean, aside from the new member, was a lot of this done during the pandemic or was it before the pandemic?
So the actual album was written and recorded we recorded January 2020. So just before things were really kicking off in the UK. I think it was sort of late March that sort of lockdowns really started happening and restrictions was put in place. So we've always written pretty remotely. I mean, we do get together, we do write a lot, whether it's just Charlie and John or just the boys or all six of us. But the majority of the writing tends to be, as has always been done, from a remote aspect, because it tends to always piggyback either from a riff that John's written that's sent to Charlie for electronics or vice versa. So, yeah, overall, it's always been fairly remote. So it's like we're ahead of the curve on that one.
That's right, baby. Now, something you brought up that I think is interesting is, you've got these influences, but you're writing something else almost. What's that like to have these influences and to walk into a writing session saying, this is what I want it to sound like? And it's almost like the song takes on a life of its own and becomes something else. And obviously you're okay with it. But to kind of just almost have that gnawing thing at the back of your head, like, man, we walked in wanting to do something else.
Oh, that happens so frequently. And it can literally just be a case of someone's thought of a new riff to a particular electronic part. And then it's like, oh, that whole song now feels like it's changed.
Right.
But I suppose it's not like we all only listen to metal. Like, I grew up on things like Limp Bizkit, the new metal wave, and that got me heavily into old school hip hop. And even I follow hip hop and rap now. Charlie actually almost did the polar opposite. So he started musically writing hip hop instrumentals, found heavy music. He was kind of into grunge as well. I know he's a big fan of Nirvana and that scene. But from his personal perspective, he always preferred writing hip hop. But then as the years went on, he wanted to bring it into more of a live scene. And then the metal, you could almost say, just naturally followed us. So I had it from a past, Charlie had it from new findings, and then the new members were always either in or been around other metal bands as well. I know Stu drummed for a new metal band before he joined us. So there's always had these quite odd mix matches. So we've always had metal in common, but it's more like, well, someone's into metal and drum and bass, and someone's into metal and rap, and someone's into more punk but likes a bit of metal. So it's all these weird concoctions that kind of went into making the music, and that's naturally how Sleepy Skeletor came around. I think this time it's just with the addition of John and knowing how he can bring the heavy, it was just the right opportunity. And I think that it was something that we've always wanted to do. We wanted to have bigger sounding guitars. We wanted to be the metal bit to be a bit more prominent we wanted to come across as a band, if that made sense. We didn't just want to be an electronic sort of dance group that happened to do some live shows. It was more a case of we wanted to actually, like, we are a band. Let's show people that we're a band. So we just brought it a bit heavier.
Okay. So going like the Backstreet Boys route, that wasn't really...
I was thinking more Venga Boys, bit of NSYNC, yeah.
Okay. Groovy. Beautiful. Now, was John a happy accident, or was that something you guys were seeking out and said, join the band because you can bring the heavy, and he was okay with that, or was it more of like a happy accident?
I think, now, I'll be honest, I've kind of forgotten, because it just feels like he's part of the furniture now.
Yeah.
I believe it went down something like John either wanted to collaborate with Charlie on something personal, and then they just found that working relationship worked. I believe it was something like that. John and Charlie, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But I'm sure it was a case of, well, actually, I know we played with John and his previous band multiple times. So we knew of John. He's always been around. And that's, it just naturally all fell into place, really. I think they did some writing just to see how it went. And then I believe, actually, that it might have been one of our guitarists couldn't turn up and John covered for a particular shift, and then like I'm talking kitchens again, turned up, was like covered for a particular gig, and it all just fell into place, really.
Well, now I know how you guys run your band. It's shift work.
Yeah. I'm on the nights tonight, as you can tell.
I noticed that. You're on the night shift. Well, thank you for showing up for the night shift. I hope you're getting your shift differential and it's working out for you.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I've got the premium. It's all good.
Beautiful. Now, Dysfunctional Wonderland, lyrically, seems like I would be talking to the right guy, unless, of course, you all chip in for lyrics. But what is this record about? What did you guys set out to create, at least lyrically?
Okay, so lyrically, I'm quite fortunate in that it is kind of my baby. So that's what I look after. I kind of have a very large amount of creative control in that factor. So previous albums like Sleepy Skeletal is written about a song gives me a particular feeling. I link that feeling to a memory, and that's the kind of thing that I would write about for that particular project. With with Dysfunctional Wonderland, it was a similar sort of process, but I suppose from my own personal life, what was going on, lots of ups and lots of downs, it kind of brought more attention to how I was thinking about how other people process similar information, but in different ways. Mm-hmm. So the whole album is generally based around that particular meaning, you could say. So the background of it is, there's still maybe particular things that have happened that link that feeling to that memory. But overall, it's more subjective around the human mind. How, if we were having a conversation and someone says something out of the blue, your brain might process it different to my brain. And it's sort of the different consequences that can come from that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're all linking to our own memories.
Exactly that.
Yeah. The rose-colored glasses of my own perception. Yeah.
And my big ego.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Well, of course it's number 1 on Spotify. I wrote it.
Do you know who I am?
You're lucky to have my time right now.
It's just kind of like I like Kenneth Dopeland.
Kenneth Dopeland, sweet. So Gabesy, we were preparing for this interview, and he wanted to hear the stuff. He often does, and he absolutely loved it. You're in his Spotify playlist or favorites or something now. He's definitely, a fan.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Fan for life kind of thing. And so one of his favorite tracks that he heard was Kenneth Dopeland. So do you have any questions in particular, Gabesy, about Kenneth Dopeland?
What was the guitar tone? It's very dotty.
Oh, guitar tone. Do you know anything about the guitars, Kit?
I can tell you they're in drop F. They both use 7 strings, and I'm just trying to think, racking my brain. So size setup, I could not even start to tell you about, because he's got about 45 pedals laid out, and they all do slightly different things. And there's a bigger pedal that he presses that changes the other pedals, and it's just pedalception. I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
I know John runs through a Helix that gets a MIDI control from our laptop, so that would trigger particular changes in sort of effects and instrumental sounds that he uses throughout the track autonomously.
Yeah.
But I believe now he's also looking to bring that, so he's almost got a mix of the both. So if there is that particular venue that sounds a little bit strange for that effect, he can then actually manually go tweak something to make it a bit more suited. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when it comes to guitars, unfortunately, that's where the buck ends with me.
All right. Okay. Because Kit does all the vocals. So actually a question that I have is drop F. Is that because of your vocal range?
No, it was purely just a heavy. It was always just to do with the heavy, and I always almost not by choice. I mean, by choice is probably the wrong term. Not by any other meanings. Then I prefer it this way. I like to have the completed track, and I like to almost just get in my zone, sit there, dark room, headphones on, alone, and just just hammer and hammer and hammer, and that's where I then know exactly what I can do with it. Mm-hmm. So I tend to play more to the track. It's not that the track sort of plays to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Kenneth Dopeland, what's this track about? Can you share?
Yeah, of course. So it's similar to the human mind thing I was saying about the whole sort of story around Dysfunctional Wonderland. I suppose this is more around, you could say, about how you can alter the way the brain works from legal or illegal substances. I suppose we'll pop that there. Mm-hmm. And how you can feel during that process. So the end bit, there's no escaping this, could be you're stuck in a particular frame of mind whilst under that influence. It could be, and all the whole way through the thing, like just don't remember a thing. Sometimes you have them times when you just wake up and think, what the hell has happened? Mm-hmm. And it's more around just that general theme.
Okay.
That's probably why there's like all the flashing images and all the flashing lights.
Yeah, so actually, I was the one that made the video for that as well, and it's just something that I wanted to have a bit of control over, because I wanted to that to really come across in the video. I wanted to be every single scene I did, I use a different clip in the background, or everything is different. There's no I don't believe there's many repetitions through that whole video at all. So it was more the visual trigger of this is really weird, because that's kind of how the brain can function when you're trying to alter that state of mind.
Yeah. Okay. Now what's that, sweetie?
Now drop F guitars. Great. Because I found this song as like a heavy metal hardcore song.
Nice. You've got a good taste in music.
Thanks.
Yeah, beautiful. Drop F, not something that you hear every day. And I'm always kind of curious, when bands are picking tunings, if kind of when I've written songs in the past with other singers years ago, we took the vocal range into consideration, and sometimes we ended up in tunings that we never would have thought of, but that's just kind of where, the singer's range was. So when it comes to something deliberately obnoxious like Drop F, I'm always kind of curious, like, Drop F, how did you end up there?
That'll all be John.
Yeah.
All be John. I can guarantee it.
Cool. All right. I was going to ask a question. Oh, yeah. Tour dates. So in September, it looks like there are some tour dates. So why don't you go ahead and take us, Kit, through that. By the time this episode airs, that may have already happened, or you might be in process of it. But either way, what does the tour look like for you guys in September?
So as you can imagine, we thrive off being a live band. It's something that we've always gone out to be a live band. So the moment that we had an inkling that restrictions are going to start being lifted, we wanted to get on booking this as soon as possible, because we just wanted to go out and see as many people as we could again. Now, I appreciate it's a different world, so it's not, you never know, that's the thing, but we just had to take the gamble on this and just go do it. But yeah, this is a tour based around the album that's coming out very shortly after our first date, which is Thursday the 9th of September, starting in Bournemouth, and then we do Bristol as well. Then it's literally just every single day when there's no breaks. We like to hammer it as we go when we can. And then we halfway through the HRH Goth Festival, which is similar. I don't know if you know about the Reading and Leeds Festival. They do a lineup, and then the next day the bands basically just swap locations.
Okay.
So we're doing that. We've got London first, then Leeds, and as we're up that way in the country, we then got Birmingham, back down to Brighton, Huddersfield, Edinburgh, Manchester, and Bridgewater. We're literally just writing up the details now on our social medias, so you should see all that tour poster out shortly. If you want to get ticket links, it'll all be there, and it'll explain where the venues are, who we're going to be there with, and generally very excited. Fingers crossed that we can, basically.
Mm-hmm. Abso-freaking-lutely. Well, Godspeed to you there, and good luck and all that jazz. I know the reopening here is probably going to lead to about another lockdown in like 2 weeks, but hopefully.
I thought it was going to be the same in the UK, to be honest, and so far no lockdown. Fingers crossed. I've probably jinxed it now, but
all right, cool, sweet. Is there anything that we missed that we wanted to chat about? Is there anything management wanted us to check on? Now, for those listening in the audience there, if you're listening Spotify, Apple Music, you're watching on the website, therockmetalpodcast.ca, or on YouTube, there will be links posted to all the available music videos. At the time, Dead, Kenneth Dopeland, Lucid Dream, Knock Off God. Is there a video coming for Smile Thief?
There is not a video coming for Smile Thief, but there will be for the next single.
Okay. Cool. So
it was just, unfortunately, it was just a timing issue with Smile Thief. We were quite busy at the time, so just couldn't get one out. But
right.
Yeah, the next one is, I think the next one's probably one of my favourite tracks off this album. From a personal perspective, I think it just covers everything quite nicely.
Okay, very cool. We also chatted about tour dates in September. Guys are just going to go hammer it hard for a couple of weeks there. And then also Kit mentioned some social media stuff. So I have a link for the band's Facebook that's going to be in today's show notes, where you should be able to find everything that you need. Is there a main website or a link tree where people could have access to all of your socials, or do they just maybe search Google for Seething Akira?
We part of the process of actually choosing a band name was to choose something that we're pretty confident no one else in this planet is going to pick. So yeah, just Google it. Whatever your preference of social media is, I'm confident we'll be there. Just type it in that search bar and come say hello. Okay,
beautiful. All right, beautiful. Wow, Kit, is there anything that I missed?
Other than what a privilege it is to be here again. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on today.
No, Rad. Thank you. And yeah, just come listen, please. I need your 0.0003 pences off of Spotify, so if you can listen, that would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks to this little man right here, you might be able to refill your water.
Oh, yes. It's been many years.
That's right.
Yep, giving Kenneth Dopeland probably 12 billion trillion out of 10.
Well, that's probably the best review we've ever had, and I'm going to make sure that's put up somewhere on a plaque on my wall, I think.
Perfect.
I like my oval ratings.
All right.